All right. It's about that time. It is Thursday night, which means the Toilets to Titles crew is here for you with our weekly show, A Dash of DFS. We're talking all things daily fantasy sports. With me this evening, the gang is back together. We had a few rough weeks where we couldn't find we had just things pop up. We're all back together. All right, we're ready for you. With me to my right, Mike D, Dirty Jobs at Dirty Jobs 21. Mike, what is cooking?
What is happening, guys? Just another fun Thursday night, man. Week 10. Can you believe we're already talking about week 10, man? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like we're 5 weeks out of playoffs right here. So very exciting stuff. We've been doing okay, man. Last week, I can't even imagine. I know my lineup was like 76 points or something like that.
Well, I crushed it. I hit for $500 last week. Yeah.
Hey. Oh, that a boy. Nice. Heck yeah. Hey,
so if anybody tuned in and played my lineup, it started off with Elijah Moore and two players from Thursday night. I forget who the other was. Oh, Jonathan Taylor.
What was like your biggest tournament play in that piece, Coach? Like, was it like a $10 big tourney that you hit? Like, what was the?
Yeah, $12. It was
Nice.
$12. Yep.
Nice.
And it was my lineup, Jonathan Taylor and Elijah Moore. I think they got me like 60 points after Thursday night, so I was in good shape. But It seemed like last week was the week from hell. It seemed like everybody was upset. But personally, I had my best fantasy week of the season. I went 6-8 in leagues that matter to me. I'm sorry, 6-2 out of 8 leagues. Yeah, I'm sorry. That sounded. I almost kept going. What? Yeah. I'm sorry. No, I went 6-2, and then I won $500. So I'm feeling good. But also below us, I did mention it before, Joe Racci. I dropped the leash. JC, Joe, what's cooking?
Hey, man, I'm ready to rock. I had a good week last week, too, but the one failure I had was my 1 p.m. FanDuel last week. I made it up in the primetime slots. So this week, I'm ready for a little bit of redemption.
Hey, man, redemption. What a story. It's we all could use a good redemption story this week. But me, I just want my team to keep going. Because Mike had mentioned we're 5 weeks from the playoffs. So you heard that right. It's week 10, and the playoffs are going to start week 15. So this week, I had messed up in most of the leagues I commissioned. I commissioned about 4. I had to go in, set up the playoffs to go to week 15. And because I didn't already set the schedule up that way, I had to add a week. So I had to manually, because if I went and reset the schedule, it would reset everything. So I had to add a week. I had to go in. I had to find matchups that hadn't been played more than once, so that it wouldn't be like, I didn't want people playing each other a third time. I wanted it to be fair. So I had to go through, find matchups, and really I didn't look at the team names. I just looked at who had played who X amount of times, So it took a little bit of work, but that's commissioning. We could do a commissioning podcast some other time. This is Dash of DFS. We're going to win some money. It's Thursday night. Let's have a good time. Before we move on to the show, I want to let everybody know, however you're listening to us, we're also on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify. We have 2 Facebook groups, Toilets to Titles and When a Family Breaks. If you could, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I suggest you get in there, Toilets to Titles on the YouTube. When we go live, you'll be alerted if you hit the bell. You come in the chat and you ask us all your questions. That's one of the best parts about the show. One of the things I most enjoy is interacting with you, the listener. So come in here, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit us with a like, some comments, but also interact with us. Ask us those questions. All right. And also make sure you're checking out toiletstotitles.com. All of our in-season content, episodes, articles, all of that is going in there. We're doing that for you. So toiletstotitles.com. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes. It's Thursday night, Joe. And Joe, you normally give us the plays. All right. So who are the players to put into your lineup this Thursday night?
Well, I was able to really kick the feet up after making this decision because, if you've watched a little bit of NFL this year, Lamar Jackson's playing tonight. And the way he is playing lately, if Lamar, the first thing I did when I went to go to the main slate 1 p.m. FanDuel was look for Lamar at quarterback. And then I said, oh, he's playing on Thursday. So it's a great matchup for him. And, stacking it with Hollywood Brown, I really like that because Brown's not that expensive. I don't have his price right in front of me, but he's in the 7,000s. So that's a nice little QB wide receiver stack. And people forget about Hollywood Brown, but he's consistently putting 15 to 20 up. So I am all about Lamar Jackson with Brissett starting. Normally I'm a big Gesicki fan, but I'm just feeling a little resistance there with the backup quarterback. But Lamar.
Yeah, man. All right. So Lamar, Hollywood. Who's going to be the running back you think to see the most touches this week? Is it going to be Freeman again? Because Freeman, I think he had like 16 or 17 points last week. I was considering starting him, and I did not. What are your thoughts with him?
Yeah, it's Freeman. He's going to get more touches than Bell, although they did accomplish getting I think 11 carries for Le'Veon last week, and he did get in the end zone. But Freeman's getting those red zone touches too. My whole issue with that though is Lamar is so good in those situations. I feel like the running backs with Baltimore. It's a great story how they patch them together and get production. I'm not loving them from a fantasy perspective tonight. Maybe Freeman gets you 75 yards and a touchdown, which isn't horrible. But when you're talking about having the whole week, right, the whole week of teams to play, I'm not sure that's where you want to go.
All right, so those are the plays. And also, everybody, I want to let you know, patreon.com/toilets and titles. That's how you can support the show. $3 a month is tier 1 to get you into our group chat, Discord, where it's always active. We got tons of fantasy content in there. All of our Patreon members, all of the members of Toilets and Titles, we are in there talking trades, start sits, anything, news, all that stuff is going on in there. We'd love to see you in there. Again, that's patreon.com/toilets and titles. Tier 2 gets you into that chat as well, gets you early access to our waiver wire episodes, and gets you into Frankenstein next year. That's $5 a month. And tier 3 is $10 a month. Get you free entry into Frankenstein, all that other stuff that I had mentioned earlier, and one-on-one roster analysis from anybody at Toilets to Titles. Okay, that's it. Patreon.com/Toilets to Titles. Now, Mike, it's time for you to slam that staff on the ground and let us know who shall not pass this week.
You heard that correctly, Kyler Murray. You're not starting in my lineup this week. You're still hobbled a little bit. You're not playing as good as you've been playing at the beginning of the season, and you're facing the best defense in the league that might be resurged underneath the new Cam Newton grab. So that team might be playing on fire. I'm really worried about Arizona this week. I am fading Kyler Murray. My other guy is Mike White. Man, Mike White's been white hot, but this week he's going to find the Bills, who just got embarrassed by Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah.
Who are going to be looking really hungry to just shut this other team down. They're going to shut the Jets. I'm really fading Mike White, although he's been a huge fantasy value for us in the past couple of weeks. This is not his week.
Man, Nate's not going to like to hear that. Nate loves him some
He
Mike.
Loves him. He does, man. He loves Mike White, but he's not going to love it when the Bills get done with him.
Well, another reason for you to get into the Discord chat is you get to see Nate, he's hosts the main show, Toilets Titles. He also hosts Dollars to Deuces, which is Wednesday night with Rich, who helped out with this show last week. But one thing you get to see in that chat is every single nickname that Nate comes up with. He's like a nickname, like, you know how, like, if you Googled like nickname generator, and you just like, that's what Nate's like. He's quick, man. So this is Mike White Lightning. That's what he has. And Daryl Williams is Daryl Dirty Double Barrel or something. I don't know. All of them are Justin Herbert is Hair Bear. He's got a few good ones, and they like get stuck in your head, and that's who the players' names become to me. Hair Bear. Like, I've never heard that anywhere else but Nate, and now that's what I call it. But all right, let me move on to non-quarterback fades of the week. I don't have a catchy name like You Shall Not Pass. That's a great one for quarterback fades, but this is just plain Jane non-quarterback fades of the week. I'm starting with Antonio Gibson versus Tampa Bay for 5,500, which is fairly cheap for, considering what we've seen him go for in the past. But one of the biggest disappointments in this fantasy season has to be Antonio Gibson. His yards per carry last year was 4.7. This year it's down to 4. And I think he still has time to bounce back, but this isn't the week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is, they're great against the run. And I don't think Antonio Gibson's going to fare too well. My next one, Tyreek Hill at Las Vegas at 7,700. Stephon Gilmore has been a great addition to the Panthers secondary. I don't know why I put that in there. That's my wrong notes. He's playing against Las Vegas, who do not have Stephon Gilmore. I'm sorry, I got to cut that out. But the Raiders secondary has been great this year, and Patrick Mahomes has been running for his life, and just doesn't seem like him and Tyreek Hill are connecting on the deep ball. It doesn't mean Mahomes is taking the shots, like he's taking the chances, but they just seem off. Like where in the past he managed to find him regularly, and this year they're just not connecting. I think the Raiders are actually going to take it to the Chiefs this week. I think the Raiders are going to win this one, and I do think that the Chiefs are going to have a hard time, throwing the ball. If Tyreek Hill produces, it's going to be one or two big plays. He's not somebody who's going to go out. He's not a high floor play this week to me. So I'm not playing him at 7,700. All right. So now we've gotten through our fades. Who are some guys we are paying up for? Joe, I'm going to pass it to you first.
Yeah, so I'll go back. My theme of the week, whether it's me personally, whether it's a team, it's redemption, and that's where I land here when we talk about who we need this week to get us the big points. And I'm going to look at Buffalo, and I'm going to look at Tampa Bay right off the bat, and I'm going to look at the Cowboys. So Dak Prescott did not have a good week. Single digits, I believe, in most scoring systems for daily last week.
Oh yeah,
how that happened, I won't know, but home against Atlanta, can't get much better of a matchup for redemption there. Whether it's Cooper, whether it's CeeDee Lamb, they're getting Michael Gallup back this week also.
That's a double redemption story. Dan Quinn got fired from the Atlanta Falcons, so he's not the offense coordinator, but there's a bit of redemption in there too. I think we can add to the storyline.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are ripe to put up 40, and Dak's going to be the leader of that. And then the other one real quick that I would go with is, Mike Evans. Mike Evans got in the end zone last week, but he only had 2 catches. And obviously they lost that game to New Orleans. We spent a lot of time talking about that game. And I think, with Godwin questionable, a true game time decision, Antonio Brown's not playing again. I think Mike Evans is going to be ripe for a big one at Washington. TB12 is going to be focused, and they ain't losing 2 in a row. We know that.
I love it. So I'm starting Mike Evans later. You'll hear that in my lineup. But the guys I'm paying up for, you talked about Evans in Tampa. I'm talking Tom Brady in Tampa. I'm sorry, playing against Washington football team for 7,600. He's coming off a week of rest, all right, which is big for him against the worst passing defense in the NFL. Like he's going to be so ready for the Washington football team, and they're just, even if Godwin ain't there, they're going to cook. Like Brady is going to eat. My next one is A.J. Brown versus New Orleans at 7,800. A.J. Brown is coming off a week where he had limited production. All right, this week the Titans should have a hard time running the football. I expect them to lean heavily on the pass. The Saints defense is allowing about 40 points per game to opposing wide receivers, which is a great setup for a monster performance for A.J. Brown. So the 2 guys I'm paying up for, Brady, A.J. Brown. So Mike, who are the guys you are paying up for?
I was also leaning very heavy towards Brady because he's, again, I just said see coach's notes above on the thing because I completely agree. A week off of rest, and we're playing the Washington team football. Let's get it.
And they're coming off a loss. When Tom Brady's coming off a loss, forget about it.
Yeah, that's another thing. And he's had another week to prep. It's over. And then Dalvin Cook at the Chargers, $8,500. I know that's pretty expensive, but get him in there while you can.
Yeah.
That's probably a bad joke for right now, maybe too soon. But I really think I think this is a great matchup for Cook coming up this weekend, and I think he might be actually playing like it's his last game because you never know with stuff like this. It very well could be.
Yeah, I was going to say something about a situation in Minnesota a few years back with a different running back, but I'm not going to because I'm not going to compare situations. But it was another bad one, and it didn't end this guy's career, which is bizarre. But that's all I'll say about that. You can read between the lines if you actually remember what happened in Minnesota to a running back,
right?
A ways back. But all right, now riding the wave. All right, I'm putting my arms up. These players are on a hot streak. I'm jumping on the wave. I'm riding it. And this one is Javonte Williams versus Philadelphia. All right, last week Javonte topped 100 yards on the ground for the first time in his career, his young and early career. Yes, Broncos #1 fan right there, which, shout out to you. The Broncos kicked the Cowboys' butts this week. They have their number. Like the last time we played Denver, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, they kicked our butts as well, but it was in Denver. So I kind of saw it coming. I started Teddy Bridgewater, and one of my, I had a feeling we were due, but shout out to you. But Javonte Williams going against Philadelphia, he had 6.5 yards per carry against Dallas. All right. Look for Williams to receive more touches than Gordon because he's earned it. The Eagles are allowing 29 points per game to opposing running backs. I'm expecting big things. I think Williams and Gordon combined for like over 30 touches. So I don't think, I don't know if the running backs are going to have a total of over 30 touches, but I do think Javonte Williams will lead that backfield. 5,000. The wave might not be gigantic, but at that price, sign me up. Antonio Gibson's at 5,500. All right. I'm not playing him. I'm playing this guy for 500 less, and I'm going to put that money. somewhere else. All right, so bounce back player of the week. Mike, tell us about your bounce back player.
My guy is Noah Fant this week. Even before the COVID, he had a couple of off weeks there. I think he's really going to be able to turn it around against the worst defense in the league against tight ends, or at least love giving up them points to him. So I have Noah Fant this week because I think he's going to have not an explosive game, but he's going to get you about 15, 20 points.
I hope so. I got a lot of Fant. All right, Joe, who's the player you were paying up for this? I'm sorry. Who's the bounce back player of the week for you this week?
Yeah, I'm back to redemption song. Josh Allen, that Buffalo offense. You could say Allen, you could say Diggs, you could say Sanders, you could say Beasley, Singletary, Moss. The only other one real quick thing that I'll add about that game for Buffalo's perspective, fantasy daily wise, is keep an eye on that running back situation because they've got a great matchup playing the Jets. If Moss can't come back from that concussion, Singletary at 6,100, I think he was on FanDuel, could actually be a really strong play this week.
4,700 on DraftKings.
There you go, man. I mean, right? And they're coming off a loss to Jacksonville. They're a little pissed off.
Yeah.
I don't think the Jets have much of a shot. So I like everything Buffalo.
Everything Buffalo. All right, my bounce back player of the week. Already mentioned before by Joe, it's Dak Prescott. First Atlanta, 6,900 on DraftKings. Dak and the Cowboys had their worst performance of the season in Week 9. I believe they'll be on a warpath this week, all right? Dan Quinn will be giving Kellen Moore some inside information on all the players he's coached on the defensive side of the football over there. He'll be giving Dak all that inside information. They're going to be ready. They're a talented offense. We know that. Joe mentioned earlier Michael Gallup's back. I just think they're, 6,900 is also pretty low for Dak Prescott. So bounce back player, goodbye there, and goodbye to the Atlanta Falcons because I think they're going to be in trouble this week. All right, diamond in the rough, low ownership play. Who's your low ownership play for the week, Joe?
I love doing this research, but I think this is the one that I get the happiest about when I feel like we got a good one to deliver. And this week, I'm loving it. Pat Fryermuth, Pittsburgh Steeler tight end. I remember prepping for drafts and being pissed off about Pat Fryermuth because I wanted to be able to think I could get some good value drafting Eric Ebron late. And Fryermuth is slowly taken from him all year to the point now where 13 targets the last 2 games, 3 touchdowns. They're home against Detroit. Roethlisberger, and when he's playing well, we're starting to figure out that it's the check down game. It's the security blankets of Harris, Fryermuth now. Not a lot of deep balls like they were the last couple of years. So I'm loving Fryermuth in this one to get in the end zone and get us another 50 yards and double-digit tight end points.
Fryermuth had his coming out party last week, I think.
He did.
He's arrived. He's legit.
He's not a diamond in the rough next week if he puts up another good one this week. I'll tell you.
Ben loves his tight end. Yeah, dude. Ben's always loved his tight end. He's finally got one to throw at.
Right.
He's still on the low side salary-wise. I would say for FanDuel, if you're under like 5,500 at tight end, I feel like you're doing pretty well.
I think, like you said, he's not going to be a diamond in the rough after this week. I think people will start taking him serious, and he'll move up. He'll be in like the higher percentage of cost for tight ends.
Next week he'll be in riding the wave.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Claypool's a little banged up. Juju's already hurt, so they're running out of options there. James Washington, he should step up. So he's a decent, thought for a play because he might produce this week. But I love the Fryermuth there. All right, let's move on to lineups we are playing this week. Dirty Jobs, what's your lineup this week?
My guys this week, so I told you we had Tom Brady rocking out there, and we had Dalvin Cook, respectively 8,300, 8,500 at the Washington team football, and then the Chargers, of course. And then I got James Conner riding that hot hand. I know you're not supposed to do that. I know you're not supposed to point chase. But when you look at the opportunity that he has, when you looked at a banged-up quarterback on that team, you've got everything you need to get James Conner going, I think. So I've got James Conner up there. I got Mike Evans because I love my stack. So I got that Brady Evans stack.
Real quick, Mike, not to interrupt you, but on the Conner thing, Edmonds is out.
Right.
So, Conner was doing it before Edmonds was out. Now, just to your point, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I love Conner there for that reason alone.
Exactly. I don't like the matchup as much, but I think that they're just going to have to use the crap out of him in that game no matter what. So I'm with you. Cole Beasley, he's been just a target monster. And look at this at 6,100. I don't know how he's not involved in every fantasy lineup out there every single time. The other guy that's been getting a lot of good looks is Donovan Peoples-Jones. I have him at New England for 5,600 because I really like that opportunity as well. I told you about my man Noah Fant. Michael Pittman Jr. versus Jacksonville. I think you see Indy kind of tear up Jacksonville. I think Pittman gets maybe 1, maybe 2 touchdowns in that game. So I love that flex. And then I'm playing Titans versus New Orleans because that quarterback situation is a mess and Simeon sucks.
Hey, I think if Michael Pittman were playing like anywhere else but Indianapolis, like if he was playing in a big market, he would be such a household name right now. That guy is producing. Like he is getting it done, and he's not getting much love. He deserves more love. Michael Pittman's a dude. He's a stud, and he's like a legitimate, I'd say top 20 fantasy football wide receiver, this season. 20 might seem, too low, but, somewhere between 15 and 20, I think he is right now. And as far as dynasty goes, he's ascending. He might be top 12 by the time the season's over in ADP. All right.
Absolutely.
Joe, what is your lineup you're playing this week?
Yes, sir. FanDuel, Dak Prescott, 8,100, home against Atlanta. All the reasons we've talked about. Paying up for Jonathan Taylor, also home against Jacksonville. The one thing that's really intoxicating about Taylor this year is he's getting a lot more targets in the passing game than he has previously. Those usually always went to Hines in the past, and Taylor's playing in the passing game, which has really bumped him up, in my opinion. Devin Singletary, 6,100 against the Jets. Watching the Moss injury. If Moss doesn't play, I love Singletary. Mike Evans, we talked about it, 7,400 against Washington. Keenan Allen, 7,200 against Minnesota. Allen was back to those double-digit targets and receptions last week, which is where I like to see him there for the Chargers. Like Mike said, loving Donovan Peoples-Jones, even before Beckham's gone, but especially now, he's been up for a couple of big plays each week for them, even though we don't love that passing game. 5,600, think that's a bargain. Our man, Pat Fryermuth, 5,100, home against Detroit. 13 targets, 3 touchdowns the last 2 games. Flexing Melvin Gordon. I agree with everything that Coach said about Williams, but this is really starting to become one of those. I always use the example for the guys who've been around a while. This is really becoming a Jamal Charles, Thomas Jones fantasy backfield in Denver. And what I mean by that is we have tons of tandems, but this is starting to become a consistently successful week after week tandem where they're both putting up double-digit points. Williams had his 100-yard day last week. Gordon still had 2 touchdowns.
Right.
So loving that. And you know what, too? If you can't fit Gordon in at 63, you drop down 600 and get Williams. And then going to take advantage of the quarterback situation in Carolina. PJ Walker, I believe, is still starting this week despite the Cam Newton signing. Arizona Cardinal defense home against Carolina, 4,800.
I love it. That sounds like money. Both of your lineups sound like money. My lineup for the week, I had mentioned Tom Brady earlier. I'm going Tom Brady just like Mike. I got Javonte Williams, so we're riding that Broncos backfield. So Brady's at 7,600 on DraftKings, Williams at 5,000 on DraftKings. Then I'm going with Devin Singletary at the New York Jets, just like Joe, for 4,700 on DraftKings. I think Moss, he's got that concussion thing he's dealing with. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits. And Devin Singletary is going to feast. He is going to absolutely feast. A.J. Brown versus New Orleans at 7,800. And then Mike Evans, who Joe mentioned earlier. I got Tom Brady. I'm stacking him with Evans. Stacks have gone well for me this year. All right, they have. And then next, Deontay Harris at Tennessee for 4,000. If you listen to the Toilets and Titles show on Tuesday night, he was actually on my Dudes and Duds. Or if you go to toiletsandtitles.com, look at my start sits article. He's one of my starts at wide receiver. I think him and Simeon are starting to connect. His targets are going up. He's a big play waiting to happen, and I like the value at 4,000 there. I think, swinging for the fences. Kyle Pitts at Dallas. I think, big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. He's playing in Dallas, at Jerry World. So I think history, we're going to remember this one. I think Dallas is going to win, but I do think Kyle Pitts is going to have a big performance. And then D'Ernest Johnson at New England for 4,700. So, we got Chubb, COVID, who might play. You're right. Then we have Demetric Felton, COVID. It sounds like he ain't going to play. So, I don't know. D'Ernest Johnson, when he got the bulk of the reps a few weeks back, looked pretty good. 4,700, I'm taking a chance. I'm hoping that Chubb sits out this one and D'Ernest Johnson feasts. So what do you guys think? Any thoughts on any of these lineups?
I love that we're consistent. I feel like when we're our united front, we're putting out some better lineups. When we're all different, that's where I get some. That's where I start to second guess myself. But I really do think the theme of the week is taking advantage of the good teams who did not play well last week, and they all seem to have some pretty nice matchups this week too. Buffalo and Dallas, playing the Jets and freaking Atlanta at home respectively.
Right, and then the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
against the Washington football team. You know what I mean? Fido, Mike, you got any thoughts before we wrap this thing up, my man?
Nope. I just line up the same way. I feel a lot more consistent, a lot more credible every time we come in out of this with a few of the same lines, going at least the same way. So I dig it. I'm excited. Let's get this done this week, boys.
Right, real quick, only because we got a minute. What do you guys? The line went. I thought it was interesting because the line for tonight's game was like 7.5 last night. Once Brissett was officially named the starter, I just looked Bovada. It's 9 now.
Wow.
Real quick, Coach, what you think?
So earlier today, I hit a parlay. I didn't hit it. I took it. I took Pitt straight up over UNC, which Pitt was giving UNC at 6.5, and then I took the Ravens first half -4.
Ooh,
so they were, I think it was at 7 this morning when I checked. So the fact that it's at 9 makes me feel really comfortable about the bet I placed earlier. I don't know. In the NFL, I get nervous when I see that many points, but Dolphins aren't very good. It's Thursday night. We've had some really good Thursday night matchups. We're due for a clunker. We're due for like Baltimore to just, to everybody turn it off at halftime. We're due for one of those. I might be wrong. You know what I mean? It happens. But I think I could see them covering that for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked it better at 7.5. At 7.5, I was going to buy a half a point, take it at 7 and feel really good about that. But with Brissett playing, I think I like the Ravens. Whether I want to really just 8 to 9 points or maybe find a more creative way to take them with the money line or in a teaser or something. But
right, this Pitt game is big. UNC Pitt, we got two quarterbacks, Pickett and Howell, who are probably top 15 picks next year.
What's the line in that game?
It was 6.5 this morning or around lunchtime. So I took Pitt straight. They're given 6.5. I took them straight because I do think they win this one, but it might be a little closer. But this is a big matchup. It was like, this is going to be what I was hoping Liberty versus Ole Miss was going to be with Malik Willis and Matt Corral. Liberty just didn't have the firepower. Okay, yep. So we really couldn't see Malik Willis versus Corral. But tonight, UNC and Pitt, this is going to be a slugfest. And two quarterbacks are fighting to be the number one quarterback taken. So everybody, we got two good games on tonight. What's better than that? I want to let everybody know, before we wrap this thing up, first, we appreciate you. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for supporting the show. We hope that we're helping you. Check out patreon.com/toilets-to-titles. Tier 1, $3 a month, get you into our group chat. We want to get to know you. We want to help you directly. All right, come in there. Let's talk fantasy football. All right, we talk about some other things in there as well, but let's talk fantasy football. Get in there and make sure to check out the website, toilets-to-titles.com. Good luck. Enjoy the Thursday night games. Enjoy the Sunday games, the Monday game. Hopefully you're making a run in your regular fantasy league so you can go win some money. And if you're not, DFS is huge because it gives you a shot to keep winning. All right, so come set some good lineups with us. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.